Dr. Copley has joined us.
Yes, hello, Mr. Larry, nice to have you here.
Delighted to be here. Dr. Copley is, in addition to being the director of the Bethany College Oratorio Society, which sings the Messiah, he is also a professor of music here at Bethany College, and this is your 20th year directing the Messiah. Let me ask you something, Doctor. How do you get up to do the same thing for 20 years?
Well, it looks like the same people, but it's not always the same people, so that helps. You have to recruit and start over because you have new singers every year, so that helps me get up. I think the main thing that gets me up is that the text is something that is universal and is always new for us. In other words...
So it's still new for you?
It's still new for me. There are new ways of doing things. I'm sure that I'm not doing some things today and didn't in the first part that I'm sure I'm doing some things differently.
A little, are there nuances of...
Nuances. I study the text and I say, well, maybe it was meant to be done this way. And so that gets me going. It gets me going to, well, you know, we facetiously we say we're going to do it till we get it right, but it gets me going to know there, you know,
after 100 years.
But you know, but there are always things that you like to say, well, I'd like to do that a little bit better. And then because we're working with this, if we were doing Handel's Israel in Egypt, for instance, or Judas Maccabeus, I couldn't get up for it every year because of the text. I mean, that's a historical drama, but this has to do with the nuts and bolts of the Christian religion, and that's what brings all these people all the time too.
Do we were just saying a moment ago that everybody on this stage, with the exception of the 4 soloists, are from this area or from Bethany College. How do you maintain quality with 400 people who are basically, 450 people who are basically amateurs?
Well, number one, the only restriction we have, aside from age, we have an age restriction. We don't let young people in until they turn 16 because we don't want to hurt their voices by singing too heavily. The only other restriction is that they're able to duplicate tones, and that helps a lot.
You audition them, in other words.
We do, but I have a woman on the faculty who helps me, Mrs. Dalston, another voice teacher helps me, and we just screen out the people who just can't carry a tune. I always say duplicate tones because it sounds more high-flown, but we're just talking about the people who just simply can't follow. Then we have a number of musicians spotted throughout, and they're well mixed, they're well integrated, and then by rehearsing 10 weeks, we get them pretty well trained.
You rehearse for 10 weeks, I mean, what kind of schedule? One day a week, 3 days a week?
No, twice a week. We rehearse Sundays at 3 and Tuesdays at 7:30. And when we find out when when Palm Sunday is, then we count back 10 weeks, and then if there's a spring break in there, we count back 11 weeks, then we know when we're supposed to start. We're usually starting about Super Bowl Sunday. That's about what it amounts to.
Well, people who wouldn't know would think, my goodness, you look out at this group and you see, I know for a fact that there are people in this group who are farmers, who are bankers. I talked to a banker a few moments ago before we started.
School teachers, shopkeepers,
kids in high school, and whatever. And they're not trained musicians.
No, they're not, but there are trained musicians in there. We also have music teachers in there. We have music major college students in there. We have music teachers from other communities come in, so there are some. It's not as though we don't have any.
Yeah. Elmer, doesn't this seem to you, it does to me anyway, a throwback to an earlier musical tradition almost, where ordinary people got together to make music and enjoy?
Absolutely. In fact, we have talked about that in rehearsal. Our compensation comes at the end of each rehearsal. It really does. I've also used the term anachronism connected with it because, you know, when this started, that was it. That was the high point of their week, was to get together with other people and sing. And I was telling someone yesterday, there's also something about these people coming from a church choir of 15 or 10 or 25, and they can get something a little bit wider in scope and a little bit more perfected by getting that kind of experience too. And I think basically what needs to be said is that they're all such wonderful people. You know, I saw a sign one time that says it's hard to soar like eagles when you work with turkeys, and I never have to worry about that, see, because I work with eagles. They're just such terrific people.
We're all wonderful people, Dr. Copley. What makes these people particularly wonderful?
Well, no, I won't say they're particularly wonderful. I would say, no, I wouldn't say that. I think this could be done in a lot of other places at this point. but it was started here, and there have been an awful lot of people over the years that have worked hard to make sure that it doesn't stop going.
Well, when you started 20 years ago, did you, when the first time you stood down there on that podium, did you think, I have a tradition of then 80 years to maintain? Or did you say, okay, I'm Elmer Copley, I have my own, I come at this from my own professional vantage point, and maybe we can do it a little differently. Maybe we can interpret it a little differently.
Exactly. In fact, when I came...
Second or first?
The second.
Second, okay.
Because you see, when I came, I had been told ahead of time of some of the traditions, and some traditions, or elements of tradition, can be rut, you see.
Give me an example.
They had been rehearsing by parts in all parts of this building some of the years. I simply took the women on stage with an assistant conductor, and I took the men over to what was then Old Main Chapel and worked them, and then they would say, well, we've never done it that way. Or we would do a tempo different. They said, we've never done it that way. Or there was a tradition here at one time that the longer you sang in the chorus, the farther towards the front that you sat as a place of honor. Well, then the people who are new are sitting in the back rows and could never hear or learn. So we mixed them all up, but we've never done it that way, you see. I was the one that started having the college choir sing that little part of the For Unto Us a Child is Born to get the big contrast with wonderful
ones right up in the middle.
Right up there in the middle. That's
yeah,
my college choir,
that.
and that was to emphasize even more the wonderful counselor that we come in full chorus. But I really heard from a few people who think tradition means rock bound, you can't change anything. But I have to tell you, just because you asked that question, it was a beginning for me too. I had never had full charge of anything like this, and it was a good feeling to me after the first rehearsal to sort of step down and say, well, Copley, that's something you can do.
Well, Dr. Copley, good luck on the next 20 years.
Thank you very much.
And particularly the next half, but
right.
more particularly the next 20 years.
Thank you.